All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another webinar organized by Yamaha Music Asia. So today, our webinar will cover Rivage PM series. This is on basic operations. So what we've done here is, I'm sure many of you have seen the videos that are already online, posted by Yamaha Corporation Japan. And those videos cover the overall ecosystem of our new Rivage PM3, PM5, and of course the older PM10 and PM7. So working off that, I think we want to go a bit more in depth on what this system can do in terms of setting up and also operations. Lastly, we'll cover troubleshooting today, and the advanced features will be covered tomorrow. So before we start on the overview, any questions you may have, because we're not using Zoom today, any questions you may have, you can write it in the comment section, and at the Q&A section, we'll pick those questions up and answer them either through live or through text. All right, let's begin. Okay, so our basic operations. So I'll start with an overview of what we'll be going through today. So we have 3 sections and a Q&A. So setup, operation, and troubleshooting. So the setup will be for system techs, whoever is setting up, installers, whoever may need to set up the Rivage system. Operation will be more on the basic level. Basically how to get around, what is how you navigate the console, and certain functions that you might find helpful. And then lastly, troubleshooting. There are certain functions and pages in the console where you can troubleshoot, and it makes it a lot easier to find out how your signal flow is running, and you can troubleshoot whether you have no sound or you're not sure which part of the signal chain is going wrong. You can troubleshoot through those functions and pages. So let's move on. So our first step is our setup. I've broken this into 7 different steps. So the first is our HY cards. We'll go through the HY cards. We have twin lane, Dante, and Marty. We'll focus more on the twin lane and a bit on the Dante. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Dante. It's been around quite some time already, and but twin lane might be a bit newer to you guys, so I'll focus more on the twin lane, our Yamaha twin lane system. Second step is setting the unit IDs. So same as many of our familiar digital network protocols, we have to set unit IDs for devices to recognize and interface with each other. Thirdly, connecting the devices. So this section will be on physical connections and cables. And then after that, we sync our devices together, so each device knows where to push or to take information from. Of course, we have our word clock settings, which is essential for any digital network. 6 and 7 are assigning channels and patching. So assigning channels will be you have to enable certain channels, because this system is capable of a large array of configurations. So certain things you have to assign, because you very easily can have maybe like 16 different stage boxes, and each stage box you can have up to 96 inputs. So you can see how it scales up a lot from there. And patching, which is just normal soft patching on your console. So assigning channels and patching are a bit different, which you'll see later. So don't be confused with both. So first, HY cards. So twin lane, Dante, and Marty. Twin lane cards comes with multi-mode, single mode, and of course the Dante card has a SRC card as well. So with version 4 and above, we have flexible Dante slots. So for those that are not familiar with our Rivage system, here's the rear panel of our DSP. On the PM7, we have 3 slots, but this is a DSP, RxEX, but all three models of DSP have the same amount of slots. So Dante can be used on all 4 slots, but of course we have dedicated function slots. So I'll go through that. So if you're using just a fully Dante system, you can use any one of these 4 slots. But if you're combining things like twin lane, you're using virtual soundcheck, we have to be aware that there are dedicated function slots as well. So what are these slots? Slot 1 is for your main network, M. Slot 2 is for the sub network, S. So in these 2 slots, you will put the HY256TL, so the twin lane card, not the Dante card, if you are using twin lane. And slot 4 is for virtual soundcheck. So slot 4 is specifically for our Dante card, virtual soundcheck. It can be used with DVS, or if you need a higher channel count, you can use the PCIe accelerator card. So 128 channels, and our card is 144 channels, so it's just nice there. So if you're using just the main network, you need your HY256 to be on slot 1, and any of the other 3 slots, 2, 3, 4, you can throw in your Dante card, no issue. And of course, if you have your Dante only network and you're not using virtual soundcheck function, it doesn't matter where. So this wasn't possible before firmware version 4, but now it's possible. You can just put your HY144D or 144D SRC cards into any one of the 4 slots, or for the PM7 it will be all 3 slots. So moving on to unit IDs. So same as a Dante network, we have to set unit IDs for each of the different equipment in the system. So we have 3 types. We have the control surface, we have the DSP, and then we have the I/O. So firstly, on the control surface, so here in the setup page, what you can see is you can set your DSP, which is here. So here, so you select the DSP that you are using and the console ID. So console ID 1 and console ID 2 if you're using dual console mode. But if not, just use console ID 1, because 1 allows you master functions like head-end control and things like that. DSP, just match the DSP that you're using, press OK, and everything else will be done for you. So the device, the control surface and the DSP now recognize each other. So that's all you need to do on the control surface. The next place where you need to set your ID is the DSP. So there, on the DSP and the RPIOs, you have this small screen. I think it's on the top left, around there, of the unit. So you use the little buttons to navigate. On the DSP, you have 4 different unit numbers, 1 to 4, and then of course there's A and B if you are doing DSP mirroring. If not, you can run up to 4 DSP engines without the mirroring function in a single network. So you have to set the ID for each one of them. If you're using 1, just use 1 and that's fine. And lastly, we have our I/O devices. So in our system config page here, go to any one of the slots, we can see that you have IDs here, M1 to M8 and S1 to S8. So M is for your main, like I said, and S is for your sub network. So you have to set the RPIOs to correspond to this, so that you can so that DSP will recognize which IO is M1 or which IO is S1, so you won't be confused by that. So this is quite important. It's the same as setting your ID on your RIO stage boxes. If you don't set your ID, if you remove the ID number, the CLQL will not detect the stage box as what is supposed to be, and then you have you cannot control the stage box. You might not even be able to see it. So unit ID is very important. And the next step is connecting the devices. So this is the physical connection cable. So we have our control surface, our CS, and our DSP. It doesn't matter which control surface or which DSP, you will see two network ports at the back. On the control surface, it says 2 engine, and on the DSP, it says 2 console. So there are various network ports on the rear of our control surface and DSP. They can be used for things like remote control, updating. So there are a few ports and they have different functions. But in this case, we are looking for 2 engine and 2 console on the DSP. So both of the devices have out and in. The connection we're looking for is from in to out, and then here from in to out. So this is a ring connection. Don't cross, and always have a ring connection. I'll explain to you why later. This cable is a Cat6. So we use Cat6 cables for the console network connection. The next connection is from the DSP to the RPIO. So let me go back. This is from the control surface to the DSP, and this is from the DSP to the RPIO, which is your IO device. So first, we already installed the HY cards in our DSP. Of course, we have to have HY cards in every one of our IO units, our RPIO units. And how we connect them is through fiber. So same connection is in a ring connection, in to out, so it creates a ring. If this is you have more devices, same for your console network. If you have more devices, just create a ring, so in to the next device out, and then in to the next device out, and so on, of course within the limits. And this can be done with multi-mode or single mode fiber depending on the model of the card. So why do we use ring connection? So on certain older network protocols, the ring connection is there, but because it's not bidirectional, we don't have redundancy in place. For the Rivage PM series, we do have that. So this is normal situation. So this is when the ring connection is not broken, everything runs smoothly. Devices will send and receive bidirectional audio signal, data, anything. Okay, whatever is being sent can be a console network or your twin lane network. But if any of the cables are broken, the audio will reroute itself to whatever its transmitter or receiver is. So wherever the destination is, it will go to. Of course, if you completely take out 2 of these cables, this one and this device will be out of the network. But as long as there's one breakage in the system, the signal or the data will still be rerouted to reach even though it takes a longer road this time, right? But it still reach. So this is a form of inbuilt redundancy. You'll see the Rivage systems. If you watch the other videos or if you have used it before, it has a lot of inbuilt redundancy. It has 2 power supplies. It has this ring connection. So apart from hardware redundancy, which you can add on, there's already things that are inbuilt as a fail-safe. So now we go on to the device sync. So we've connected our devices, and then now we have to sync the device. There's a couple of ways we can sync the device, because you can sync either from or to the DSP or editor or any of the units within the network. So we have our control surface or editor, which contains mixing data, same as our DSP. This contains mixing data or everything, your channel processing, phantom power, your head amp settings, all these can be changed within the DSP, within the control surface or the editor. So you have to decide where do you want to sync to. If you start with a blank system, you have done work on the editor at home and you want to go in and load a show file from the editor, you would sync from the editor. You push that data to the DSP, and then from there the DSP, which is, I'm assuming, initialized now, you can have all the data you need, and whatever you worked on maybe the night before, you push it to a DSP. For example, if let's say you shut down and then you power up again, if you replace your control surface unit, but it's the same DSP, you would do it the other way. You would sync from the DSP to everything else in case you replace anything. So all the original information will be pushed to the control surface, which is new. So you have these two directions you can sync data in. So don't forget to sync, and please check that the units are synced to each other. If not, you have this virtual not connected or not synced. So every time you power on, just check that it's synced in the right direction. It will automatically sync if it's if you set it to sync already, but sometimes you need to, if you need to change, this is where you find. So on setup, device sync. Of course, on your I/O device, you have your RPIOs, and of course the IOs on your control surface. So IOs on your control surface are things like your AES, if applicable, and your Omni ins and outs. So you can sync those to the DSP or from the DSP, or you can select this all to or from. Once you select, you press sync. A pop-up will appear for you to confirm that are you trying to sync from the DSP to everything else or from the control surface to everything else. They will still prompt you. So if you are not sure, do take the time to read that pop-up. So it's quite helpful. It will tell you which direction the data is syncing to or from. Okay, now for the word clock. So word clock is essential for any digital network. So here's what settings we have. So the Rivage system supports 44.1 all the way to 96 kilohertz. And the sources, we have three main sources. So we have internal, we have word clock in. So if you have an external word clock, you can use that. And from HY. So right now, this screenshot was taken when only HY slot 4 was used. If you're using other slots, the other slots will appear on the left side here as well. So you can click this and it will take word clock from, let's say HY4 is a Dante card, it will take your word clock from Dante. So when you're doing your word clock settings, just be aware that you see here you have things that are color coded. Blue means locked, which is what you want. Red is unlocked. Gray is unknown, which is what the screenshot is, because this is a blank setup. And then yellow is locked but not synced. So you always want it at blue if that is the correct clock that you are looking, the clock source that you're looking for. Okay, we're on to the second last section of the setup, assigning channels. So again, setup, onto system config. Here is where you can mount and enable your RY slot cards. So RPIOs, the slot cards are modular, so you can have input cards, output cards, AES cards mounted inside. So you have to configure those on the console as well, so it knows where to send or where to receive signal from. So of course you click here, you can choose a card. There's only 3 models right now, and then select with recall. If you click on this tick will form, and then you press apply, and these boxes will turn green. So that is how you enable the card slots of your RPIO M1. You do that for M1 to M8, S1 to S8 if you have your sub network. After that's done, so you configure your IO devices. Now you configure your DSP. So you see DSP here, and if I go back, this is M1. So this is your IO. Next, this is your DSP. So on DSP, what we are configuring is our mixing channels, our output mixing channels. So you can see these 2 tabs here, output and direct out, and then on the bottom is your insert outs. So we have to enable or assign our outputs, which are here. When you click on them, the windows will expand. You can check all your mixed channels, matrix, stereo, monitor. So you can configure the system to what you like. You have your maximum channel count here, so it's 256 in and out, and a maximum of 400 channels. Why you need to configure is because 400 channels maximum is more than what your DSP R10 or DSP RX channel count is. Of course, they are not all actual mixing channels, but you will not be able to use like every single channel, so you do need to configure. Although the maximum channel count is way more than what normal medium shows will use, but you would still need to configure all of this. The channels 1 to 72 all the way to 288 here are not the input channels. Those are our direct outs. So what we use them for, we can use them for personal monitoring systems like Live Mix Aviom, or if we are using we're sending out to broadcast or sending out to recording, we also can enable those direct outs from there. Also, this will be covered tomorrow. If you're using port to port or sub in, we'll have to enable the number of channels here, the slot bridge out. Right, so if you want, you can increase or decrease anytime you like. The great thing is that this doesn't affect your setup at all. So let's say I enable mix 1 to 24, and then something happens, something gets added on, and I need to enable 25 to 48. I can just do it. It will not affect my scene. It will not push my mixers back or forth or unpair anything. It just adds on, and then you do your patching from there. You do your channel processing from there. It doesn't affect your workflow, or it doesn't mess up your scene in any way. So this is just to enable more channels or to manage the channel count. So that's the good thing about this system. It doesn't mess around. You don't need to, at the beginning, set everything and pray that nothing happens. If anything happens and you need to make changes, you have to go through a whole restructuring of your scene again. So that's not needed with the Rivage. And now for the last setup section, it's patching. So patching is what you all will be familiar with on a digital console, whether it's with Twin Lane, Dante, Ethersound, or whatever. It's just to patch the port to the channel, whether it's input, whether it's output. So this is what the patching page on the Rivage systems look like. We have it here right at the top, so we have a dedicated panel for patch. On the left here, we have the channel, the console channel. So it can be input channel, it can be output channel. These are the channels you find on your console. You can scroll with your touch and turn, or you can drag. And our physical port is on the top. So again, you can scroll or drag. So these physical ports can be your Omni, AES, and of course it can be anything on your RPIOs. So on RPIOs, you'll see it as a, let's say M1, RY1. So the RY1, RY is your RPIO card slot. Of course, your VSC is found here, the patching is found here in your recording as well. So this is how you patch. You just find the intersecting points and you just click, it will patch for you. So this is quite similar to Dante controller. For whoever is familiar with that, you can do it pretty much the same way. So here's a tip for everyone. You can see here, it's M1, RY1, RY2, all the way to 6. And then you have HY3, HY4. These things to a newer user might sound foreign. It's just letters and numbers. It doesn't mean much. What you can do to make your life easier, of course, everyone knows that they can name their channels. So let's do that. So for the first 5 channels, I named it. So this is your channel name. And then the port name is the one that is foreign to you, because channels, even though they're not named, is still channel 1 to channel 288. It's a number that you are familiar with. But the port, you might need some time to identify, working with high channel count shows or patching that's all over the place. You might not know what's M1 RY1. So what I've done is you can assign port names. So for port names, you go to system config, which is the slide that you've seen earlier, and port name. So from there you can name your ports. So I've named it to correspond with the channel name. So if you name it this way, you can name it something else as long as you know what is going on. You can find where your input or output is supposed to go to, or where it's coming from, without scrolling through. You can see that with every RPIO 622, I have 6 slots. And if you think of using the entire capability of system, which is 16 RPIOs with 6 slots each, it can get quite confusing if you have to keep scrolling through and not knowing the numbers and not being so familiar with the numbers. So this naming your ports and naming your channels is quite useful when you're doing your patching in the setup stage. Alright, so if you have any questions on the setup, please ask them in the comment section. I'll move on to operation now. So this is a basic operation for our Rivage series. So hopefully everyone's clear on the setup. Don't worry if you're not so sure about anything, just let us know in the comments and we can answer them for you later. Alright, so this is your selected channel view. You'll see this on your the LCD screen. At the top you have meters. Of course, for those familiar with Yamaha consoles, you can scroll through the channels with the actual hardware. Beside the faders, you have fader banks. You can scroll through any of the channels, and then you can select any one of the channels, with the select button corresponding to that fader bank. But on the Rivage GUI, you can scroll the channels by clicking or sliding your hand through here. It will show up in a bank of 8, and pressing the channel at the bottom, the individual channel will select the channel, and that is how you get to the selected channel page. In this case, it's 1. And this might be something newer to Yamaha users, the view button. So if you are familiar with the CLQL, it doesn't have this, but so you have to, this view button toggles between the selected channel, which is this one, and the channel overview, which is a channel overview of your 12 channels. So you might not be able to see, you can see the overview with the 12 channels if that's what you want. And then if you press the view again, you can go more in depth into the selected channel. So you can see how you adjust your EQ, what the dynamics are like, what inserts you have inserted into the channel, stuff like that. More in depth into the actual channel. So this is our selected channel section. A bit different from our CLQL, and a lot more compact than the PM10 or PM7. So this is something that's new. What it corresponds to is, of course, the EQ section is exactly the same as the EQ section here, and the dynamics is exactly the same here. So this will be very familiar to pretty much any Yamaha user. This layout is quite standard, even from the M7CL. This is what we are all familiar with. So that's how you use the selected channel encoders, the hardware, and of course the GUI, the software, where you can navigate to any channel you want and select any channel you want. Alright, the next is this function access. So the function access bar at the top is where you can access and also view certain functions, and you can view what channel you're on. Your scenes are here, but the important things that we cover in this section is the setup. So in the first section, where it's more on the setup, most of the pages we are navigating to is on this setup box. So when we click here, we can do pretty much everything that we need to do earlier on. So our device sync, system config, everything is in our setup page. Next is our patch. Of course, we've seen this earlier, the patch page, where you do all your channel routing. and the status indicator. So that is this center section where you see the C and D. I'll go through this later in the troubleshooting section, because this is quite useful to find out what's going on with your system at a glance without having to navigate to a different page. So this will be up wherever you are on, this whole bar will not change. So you'll always be here, and you can see the status of your various devices within the network. Okay, so now we do our scenes and user presets. Okay, the reason why these two, scenes and user presets, are in this slide together is because on the Rivage, scenes and user presets are stored separately. So I don't want people to confuse that you store a scene and then you set, let's say, a custom fader bank. This will not follow your scene. This is totally separate, which means that you have a lot more customizable functions that you can play around with within that show file. So this show file, you can have a scene and also recall different user presets as you like. So it can be mixing on the same scene, but a different user, you can recall just the user preset. You don't need to create an entire new scene. So you have scenes here. You just click on this bar and it'll take you to this page. And for user preset, if you go to setup, you'll see all the user presets here. So this user preset bar here, we can save I think 600 user presets. So this includes your preferences, which is your screen settings, and any other preferences, custom faders, user-defined knobs, and user-defined keys. So everything that you want as a user, your customizations, or you can save it under your presets, user setup. So more on the user setup. I think the one thing that's changed most is the surface settings. So I'll go through that. For user-defined keys and knobs, it's pretty much the same as previous firmwares and other consoles. But surface settings are expanded because on the PM10, the older ones with the older firmware, you're not able to have so many options. So you could link the screen, the select keys, and you can link the left, center, right bay, and also the external monitor which the PM10 has. But you're not able to, of course, have so many settings. So you can, previously you could only link the bay, but right now you can link sense on fader, SEM blocks, shift keys, channel strip encoders, home key, and so on. And of course you have 4 banks of this. So you have 4 banks times 600 user presets to customize from. So you can have 4 banks of that. So what can you use this for? You can use it for if you have multiple users running the same, using the same console. So if you have you work in a venue, this venue has a few full-timers and freelancers, they can just record their own presets. They don't need to disturb each other's presets, change, and then the next person has to change back. You can just use banks if there's not many users, or you can have completely different user presets in the previous page. Alternatively, even if it's a single user, you can have different settings. Of course, everyone set up during the setup stage, they will set the console differently, all the way to rehearsal, sound check, and the actual show. All these can have different settings, so you can have different banks here. And of course, these settings, you can have it to, you see you have your queue operation, you can have QA, QB, so it can be 2 or 3 people operating the same console at the same time. So that's quite useful for surface settings and your screen settings. Okay, now we move on to the last section, which is troubleshooting. So the Rivage provides quite useful troubleshooting functions within the GUI. It's not really actual like diagnostic tool, but it is. There are like certain pages where you can have an overview of what's going on in the system. So the first is signal flow. You find this on your selected channel page here, just below your DCA and mute assign, and beside your high pass filter. Click this, and you will go to this pop-up window. You can see you have 6 metering points throughout your entire signal chain. So very useful all the way from digital gain to on. So if you have any issues, let's say very commonly you have no sound somewhere and you're not sure why, you can click on the channel's signal flow page and you can try to see if it's metering throughout all of these stages. It could be that the fader is down, the DCA is muted, it's going out to an insert and the insert is muting it for some reason. It could be cut off at a dynamic. Maybe your gate, your threshold is set too extreme. You can find out all this here. So this is for your input channel. So not only do we have the signal flow for the input channel, we have the signal flow for the output bus as well. So if you're sending these inputs to the outputs and you're having no sound from the output, you can go to the output channel, click on the signal flow, and you have 6 metering points as well. So you all the way from the bus coming, the signal coming in to your on button, and of course your insert. So you can do the same thing. Your dynamic set to extreme, is your fader down, is your inserts cutting or boosting the signal too much. All these you can find out from your signal flow. So I find this very useful when I'm troubleshooting Rivage systems, because this is all accessible by the user. You're not restricted. You don't need key in any password. This is just out there for you in the selected channel page. So do remember this, very useful. The next is your maintenance page. So this is where you find your system log. So for this system log, you have sort of 2 stages. One is what you can check here. You can scroll, check, and if you have any bugs, you can also export the logs to storage, send it to us, and we can further investigate what's going on with the console. But for many of the issues, it might not be with the console, or it might you can sort of narrow down what the issue is. So you have fatal and warnings. Those are not so good. Caution and info. Info is just your user history, what's going on. So you'll see it like this, just white text. I think fatal is red, warning is yellow. So fatal will be things like power failure. Warnings, maybe your twin lane or your console network, your loop is open, so you get a warning. Some of these warnings will appear as pop-ups, so that will be quite useful for whoever. You pop up and say, let's say your console ring connection is open, and then you know where to look out for. If you are not there, let's say you manage some show or venue and you need to check out what's going on, maybe something went wrong when you're not there, you come back, you can check the system log, and this will tell you what is going on. There are times where it's not the equipment error, but it might be a user error that they are not so familiar with the console and they might have accidentally done something. You can backtrack, see what the history is, and then rectify that. So this user log is quite useful because you have, of course, dates, timestamps, and everything, and even down to cooling fan state, power state, your battery status, and all that. And in the same maintenance page, so you can see the firmware version. So system log is here near the end. Firmware version is the first tab. So what you can do with the firmware version is you can see that you have firmwares from your editor all the way to your stage box, control surface and DSP included. You can check if they are compatible. So on our website, we have compatibility lists. You can check based off those. See, maybe you are taking a replacement or renting in from somewhere else. You don't know if it's compatible. You can check. Also, the console will prompt you if the firmwares are not compatible. So that is another useful function. So you can see if there's a need to upgrade. Check on the website. If you're looking for certain bug fixes, you're facing some bugs, you know there is a bug fix, or you don't know, you can check on the website. You can see if this version faces has a bug fix. The next version up has a bug fix, or if you're looking for certain functions that you cannot find, is that function only available in, let's say, 4.1, or is 4.2, is it already available on 4.2? So you can check these things on the firmware version. Again, this is all user accessible. You can check this on the setup, and then the maintenance tab will be around this area. All of these can be found in the editor, so if any one of you have the editor software, you can try to play around and get used to the user interface. So lastly, this is what I mentioned earlier on. So you have your status icons. So you have M, S, C, D, and R. So what do they mean? For users of the Rivage PM series, we are going to ignore everything else from the bottom of this MSCDR. For those that don't know, if you have overlay virtual soundcheck on, this status bar will tell you that these things are on, these functions are on. But we will not go through that for now. We'll just focus on the top section. So M of course stands for your main twin lane network. S is your sub twin lane network. Console network status is C. So this is the console network, the CAT cable. DSP engine status, RPIO rack status. So that is what MSCDR stands for. So you can have an overview of what your entire network is, the status of the entire network is, through this small little bar here. They come in different colors. Right now it's gray. Gray means offline. So anything that's supposed to be online should be green. Yellow is online, but there is some issue detected. It could be failure of a redundant power supply. It could be cable fault. So those things will be yellow. Cable fault doesn't cause, certain cable faults don't cause audio interruption. So if the ring is open, it will still be online. Still can send or receive signal, but they will tell you the issue is detected here. Red means there's an error. So there's a more serious error here. Blue means out of sync. You might want to go to the setup page and check your device sync. And gray means offline. So in the case where I took this screenshot, it's offline because I'm just using the editor. I set up the system, but I have not connected it physically to anything else or any other system, the actual unit. So that's why it's offline. So everyone is okay with that. So this is very useful because this bar, this function access bar, and this little box here, it will not disappear if you switch channels. If you move, you select different fader banks, it will still stay there. So it's always there for you to have a rough overview of how your network, your twin lane network is doing. Alright, so now it's time for Q&A. Check the comment section. So let's see, any questions you have, you can shoot in the comments. So today is the basic operation. So what we covered was setup and some small operations. Tomorrow we'll be covering a bit more advanced features. You may find that there is some gap in like the information that we are putting out on this webinar. I intentionally did that because there are already videos on YouTube that are done by Yamaha Japan or other subsidiaries. They have gone through certain functions, and you can also watch those videos at your own time. So this is more to fill in the gaps of our operation setup and some advanced features that I feel are quite useful but haven't been covered enough to about our Rivage system. So that will be tomorrow. So if anyone has questions, please shoot them in the comments. if you have any questions on topics that are out of this or whatever I covered, please feel free to ask. No worries if we run out of time or anything, we can always take it. We can answer you through email or anything. All right, if we don't have any questions, end the webinar here. Thanks for joining us. If you like all the webinars that we've currently put out, don't forget to like or follow our Instagram and Facebook. We'll be putting out more webinars through Facebook Live. We have another one tomorrow on the Rivage advanced functions, and I think we'll leave this video up for a while so that whoever is interested, so please direct them here, they can watch this video. It'll be up on our page for a while. So thank you everyone. Hope to see you tomorrow and for our future webinars. Thanks.